Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about making tax digital. What has happened recently? Hi, I'm Chap, qualified chartered accountant, property investor and entrepreneur. Let's sit down and have a chat with Aaron today on what is happening with making tax digital.
Thanks there. So making tax digital is one of those topics I love to talk about. I am also a fellow chartered accountant. I'm that Quickbooks chap on the internet and also own a practice as well. So when it comes to making tax digital, I'm literally wanting as soon as possible for this to happen because in my eyes, it's only for the good, but we'll talk about it in a moment.
Maybe not quite as excited as you, Aaron, because you are very excited there, but I think we're both pro making tax digital. So very recently we've had an announcement. It's coming. We know it's coming. There's a few things happening with that at the moment that are going to be coming in April, but I'm not going to worry about those because most of our audience today is a property investor and the VAT side of things is not relevant. However, they've pushed back the date, haven't they, by 12 months?
Yeah, they have. They've given us a 12-month, well, they've given the public a 12-month respite. And I think the most important thing to talk about first is probably going to be the pros of that. Like, what's the benefit of that? Obviously, the first benefit is the fact that from a compliance point of view, everyone's going to have that extra 12 months opportunity to get yourself ready, to get yourself up and running, to get yourself in plan with it. And also, hopefully, they're going to take that 12 months to be able to think about who should be affected, and we should know more because at this point there's still a lot of questions in the air, isn't there?
A lot of questions. We'll go on in a minute of what it actually means, what we're talking about, this making tax digital, but it's definitely give us that time to get things up and running, to make sure everyone is doing what they need to do, and it's potentially given us that leeway rather than next year needing to be the test year to make sure we've now got kind of 2 test years in play, which means we've still got time. So if things aren't going quite to plan, we can actually get things back on track with you, with our clients, and you can ask those questions to make sure you're doing things right and ready for this change that's coming in. So do you want to cover kind of what it actually means, and then we can kind of pick up from that point?
Yeah, so if you think about it now, when we want to do a tax return, so our compliance, if you like, on a yearly basis is that we have to compile a tax return one time a year, has to be done by the 31st January. Most people are going to be aware of that 31st January deadline. And really, ever since I was involved in accounting, I'm sure exactly the same you can believe, but it's always been that 31st of January, we work towards it, and we make sure that clients are compliant by that date. Effectively, what making tax digital is all about is to go, right, how are we going to get that information for that 31st of January, for that annual tax return coming forward? And instead of at the moment, you kind of free for all of how you produce that information, so you could keep it on paper, pen, you could do anything you like to compile that information as long as you're able to put it onto a tax return at the end of the year. Now, what HMRC is saying, or what Making Tax Digital is designed to do, is to standardise how that information is kept. So they want data to be kept on a digital basis so that when we got our compliance, then we're able to send that compliance over in a digital format. So that means using software. Now, what they also want to do is, instead of just having that one tax point, so that one period that we need to get the information into, they want us to do it on a quarterly basis. So we're going to have to be telling HMRC much more regular when our information, or what tax information we've got. They're going to want us to send that on a more regular basis. And then at the end of a year, just like we do now with a tax return, they want us to compile that and show everything that's coming through. So it's a huge change. We're moving from having to do one submission each year to doing 5 submissions each year on a more regular basis.
And to add to that, it might not just be 5. We have a few issues that are not quite resolved yet. Now, the first issue is if you are also self-employed as well as have your property business. And when this happens, you've now got to do one for your self-employed business and one for your property portfolio, and then collate everything at the end of the year. And something that was highlighted on a recent update was also, what if you own your properties with different people? What if I own one property in my own name, one property with my partner, one property with my brother, one property with my mother? We could go through the whole family here, but that's probably a tad excessive. But you get the point where you've got different proportions of ownership. Now, do they want just one return for each property ownership type, so you can just do it all globally? Or do they actually want one? I need to do one for the one I own in my own name, one for the one that's owned with this person with these proportions. And it's not even clear at the moment if you have a property with the same person, but you own one property 50-50, you might own one property 90-10. Do you have to do different returns for them? So these are a few of the questions that you can appreciate. You're going, well, what's the answer? Unfortunately, at the minute, we don't know the answer. And this is the reason we're telling people about it now, because we don't know. But these are the answers we are seeking to get to make sure that we can share that with you as soon as we know the answer to these questions. Because as you can appreciate, it sounds very simple. There's a few complications in there that we're just trying to figure out at the moment so that we can make it as simple as possible for those that are trying to actually deal with it. And obviously, as landlords ourselves, we've got this issue to deal with as well.
Yeah.
So we are on the same page as you with having to fulfill these requirements ourselves. So we need to know for ourselves, and we want to support and help you with these questions.
Yeah, and I think, saying there about the amount of different reports and returns you're going to have to do is going to be the biggest kind of issue, you like, in terms of especially what rental property owners are going to face with. But I think the thing that we've got to fundamentally remember here is the fact that we're moving away from doing it all, standardized or non-standardized, and we're going to standardize it by putting it into software. So we're hoping and we're fingers crossed that software companies are going to have a way in which that's going to make our life easier. That's what we're fighting for, isn't it? We want to work with software companies, we want to work with clients, we want to work with people, so that these issues that Kimberly's just said, these problems that we're facing, now we've got that extra year, that should give us the opportunity to be able to figure them out and be able to give us an opportunity to be able to make it so we can work with our clients.
Well, we're feeding back to HMRC all the time with all these questions. We're talking on webinars with them and asking these questions as things are happening. So as soon as we know some of the answers to these, that's what I'll be updating you on, to make sure that you are in the know what's happening as we know what's happening. Because it's a big change. It's a fundamental change in the tax system since they originally introduced self-assessment a few decades ago. So this is quite a significant change. It's something big, but hopefully we can try and find the easiest solution to help property investors and help those completing their self-assessments.
Yeah, it's got it absolutely spot on. And I think the only other thing I'd want to bring up on this topic now is about why I'm so gutted that it's been. Because as you brilliantly put, there are going to be a lot of complications. There is, there are a lot of things we still need to think about, and that's going to be a big change for clients. And there's going to be an unnecessary cost for clients as well in some circumstances that unfortunately is unavoidable. We've just got to accept that is the cost of doing business these days. So, there is a lot of negativity, or there can be a lot of negativity around making tax digital. But for me, the reason I was so excited about it wasn't just for, what was going to happen in the next 12 months or 24 months. It's about what can or what we want the future to be when it comes to digitalising our records. So the whole idea of MTD is about making it so everyone is on a digital platform. So everyone is using software in one form or another to submit a quarterly return, get that information over to HMRC. Then in theory, what that means is that we then have better cash flow, we have better understanding of what's going on. As a business advisor, it's great news, isn't it?
It's making us in a position where we can help manage your business with you, where we can understand what's going on a regular basis. So rather than maybe wait till the end of the year and go, oh, what about this? What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
Actually, we can be having those conversations more regularly, which at the moment with a lot of just annual cycles, that's not really possible. And sometimes the data's out of date to actually be dealing with it. Whereas if we're looking at things on a quarterly basis, it's really starting to show us the picture of what's happening.
Yeah.
And we can be giving that advice at an earlier stage. So hopefully making a real difference in businesses and supporting our clients. And I think that's what we want to be recommending work with your accountants, work with your advisors, because there's going to be so many positives to how this is going to work. You've just got to take that leap of faith with us, that this could be an absolutely amazing thing for our businesses.
Definitely. And the one I touched on about, okay, that's 12 to 24 months of brilliance and going forward. But when we look forward of how or what the future could hold for digital records, means that there's this terminology called blockchain. And the idea of blockchain is that if we're going to send some invoice from one person to the next, then why not just have that automatically record in the other person's platform? And that's where Making Tax Digital was going to form that basis of it. So the fact we've had that delay means that potentially we could delay the future kind of implementation of what digital records really mean. And that idea that we can, have most of our records just being automatically imported for us, automatically put into our software, just makes me so excited about the future. And that's why I'm so gutted about Making Tax Digital been delayed. But at the same time, we want to make sure people are supported and they need to follow this channel, because you've just said perfectly there how much of a nightmare Making Tax Digital potentially can be. And
there's
you're
a lot
the one
of potential for problems, but I'm not looking for problems. We're looking for solutions, and as soon as we know the solutions, that's what we'll be sharing, because we can make this, I'm not going to say easy, not difficult is probably the way I go with it, because there's going to be some upheaval, there's going to be a few changes. Your accountants probably are going to ask you to work with them differently, but that's not a negative. You just have to roll with it, and we can all do this together, I think, is the key thing for us. Hopefully today you've discovered what is happening with Making Tax Digital, and from there you'll keep on track with us to find out what is happening as new updates start to arrive. And they should start coming in the next 12 to 18 months as we get close to the date when we have to start implementing these changes. Please like the video and please do subscribe to the channel. Let's make tax less taxing.